are not even ready to hear about the month I've been having. Not even month, the week I've been having. It's just been one of those weeks where you're like, surely nothing else can go wrong, and then it does. And then you're like, surely this is it, surely this is it, and then it isn't. It's just been one of those weeks where it's been thing after thing, and I was already not really feeling great or myself beforehand, and then life was like, I'm going to give you a reason times like 5 of reason to actually be sad, and everything just happened at once. So I've not really filmed anything because I've just been dealing with everything else. So this is going to be quite chatty because I do have a lot to update you on. I am going to try to film some things with the other pets. Honestly, this month has just been a complete write-off. I feel like I just need a week to be like unconscious and just rest and not have to worry about anything, and then come back and start doing stuff. But life doesn't work that way. So this is what's happened in July in the past week or so of just everything. So you'll know if you watch the last 1 or 2 vlogs that my lovely big ginger mouse Clover had a tumour appear on her side, and that has grown, well, had grown so rapidly, because I think it was like 2, maybe 5 weeks ago ish at the time that it was pea size, and it grew so rapidly. So I was kind of keeping an eye on that in the back of my mind, knowing that it was starting to get too big and it was going to start to affect her quality of life. And I was kind of mentally preparing myself to make that final appointment, and it literally just got so huge within like days. So the one that was on her side I wasn't too worried about initially because it was kind of loose in the skin, but I was checking this every single day just to check how much it had grown. And I was checking her at the weekend, and as I was like feeling around, I felt that she had a huge massive one that was kind of internal, possibly in like some sort of organ that I hadn't noticed because it had been, you know, inside for a while and then was starting to become quite apparent. So given the position that it was very internal, that worried me that that could go at any point and cause a lot of issues. So this was maybe Saturday, Sunday, and I decided to give her one really nice last day and then book her in and say goodbye on Monday. What I wasn't expecting is for my other female mouse, Wren, to go downhill like this overnight, pretty much the same time, and she was perfectly fine. I did post on my Instagram a couple of days before this, just saying that she looked old to me. When you've had rats and mice for a while, you recognise they just look, in their face and their features, they just get this like old, frail look about them. So I had noticed that a couple of days prior, but she was still completely fine, no other symptoms, zipping around the cage as normal, until she wasn't. I was watching her one night, I think it was Sunday evening, Sunday night, and she was sat there eating, but every so often her head would do like a little tremor. So picked her up, took her out, put her on the floor, and she would get this weird head tremor, tail tremor, every so often, quite sporadically, where it would just shake uncontrollably. So I knew straight away this was either something neurological like a stroke or like a brain tumour or something. Just in case she was in any pain or discomfort, I gave her some pain medication and she was still fine. She was eating, drinking, going around doing things, just had this tremor that she couldn't control. But I knew the prognosis was probably not good. I was planning to take her to the vets the next day with Clover just to see if there was anything they could do to slow it down or make it go away. But I kind of knew that if it was something in the brain, there's not a whole lot you could do. So I wasn't feeling too hopeful, even though she was blissfully unaware. She didn't really seem to notice. And the next day, things were not good. So I went in, this was Monday, the day that I was planning on taking Clover to the vets to be put to sleep. And Ren was kind of wedged between 2 cage items, couldn't really get out. And I picked her up, took her out, and it was pretty evident pretty quickly that she had lost the function of her back half. She couldn't walk, she couldn't move her feet, she wasn't even responding when I was like pressing her toes and stuff. So I think she'd also lost bladder control as well, which is not a good quality of life at all. So I had to say goodbye to Clover and also Ren on Monday, which saying goodbye to any pet is hard. Having a double whammy of both of them going at the same day was just horrific. So that set me back, but also I knew this was going to happen. I feared it would happen, That then left Flurry, my super old, almost 3-year-old mouse, by himself. So I really did not want to have to do any intros with him, just because he was so ancient and he had a couple of health issues, minor ones here and there. He did have an ear infection, Christmas I think it was, and that left him a bit wonky, so he wasn't kind of the strongest mouse going, but he was still very active. But the day the girls both passed away, I came back and I knew I had to make a decision about what to do with him, so I wanted to try intros with him and the other 2 boys just to see how it went. But he'd gone from being very active, zooming around the cage, being up in the hammock, scaring me to death that he was going to fall, to just sitting in one spot where they slept, and he wasn't really moving. So instantly, just having the girls removed from the situation, he was like a different mouse. So I was like, I will try intros just to see how it goes, and if it doesn't go well, if he struggles, then it's a sign that his quality of life is not great. So I didn't want to do it, but I did it, and it didn't really go very well. The boys weren't really that receptive of him. They were kind of tail rattling, and they couldn't really get any like receptive behaviours from him because he was just sitting in one spot. So pretty quickly I decided to remove him from the situation because he was just kind of sitting there. He was breathing very quickly, and I think because he was so old, his heart maybe was on the way out, so the stress of intros would have been too much. I didn't feel comfortable carrying on with that just because it was having an effect on him. So as I was lifting him out of the carrier, Flurry was never one of those mice that you could handle and fully trust. If you held him too long, if you tried to touch his feet, if you tried to look underneath him, you would get bitten. So I was never really able to give him a proper check over in the way that I could with other mice. Without getting bitten, sometimes I would sacrifice getting nipped just to give him a good look over, but as I was lifting him out, my finger happened to go under his neck, and tumour under his neck. A pretty big tumour given the size and given the area that it was in. A pretty big, say if it was on a human, pretty much most of his neck was a big tumour, which because he was fluffy and because you can't really like poke him anywhere near his mouth without getting bitten, I hadn't noticed this. As soon as I knew it was there, I could then notice it, but I was like, really? Although it kind of solidified my decision that he already didn't have a great quality of life. This was like, excuse the pun, the nail in the coffin, because I was like, really? Another tumour? Something else? 2 days, well, 1 day after everything happened. So given everything, given that he couldn't live with any of the other mice that I currently had, and he was just kind of sat in one place, I booked him in to go to the vets because this tumour was not going to get any smaller, his health was not going to get any better. So I was very confirmed in my decision, because waiting for this vet appointment, I put him into a smaller cage just to have everything, water, food and stuff, and just as he did straight after the girls passed away, he didn't move from one spot. He just sat there, curled up, asleep, not interested in anything else. So I knew it was the right decision. But I just couldn't believe that in the span of 2 days, I had gone from having 5 mice to 2, and before I had 7 mice, obviously I lost 2 mice, pretty close together for different reasons than this, like tumours, neurological issues. But I had gone from 5 mice to 2 pretty quickly. I felt pretty solid in the fact that this was not going to happen, but it can happen to anyone. So please let this be your sign if you've got older mice or rats and you've still got a sizable group. Don't get too comfortable, because pretty quickly you can end up with 2 mice or even 1 mouse or 1 rat pretty quickly, as much as you try to avoid it. So please let this be your sign if you've been kind of holding off getting new rats or mice and you think you need to. I probably would sooner rather than later. So obviously it's not ideal just having 2 mice. In an ideal world I do want them in a group, and I didn't expect this to happen. So now that everything has kind of blown over and I'm not in shock that I've lost this many mice, I have been looking for new friends for them. I'm coming up pretty blank, to be honest. There's not that many mice on selling sites, which is good. I found a couple that are in kind of not great conditions in pet homes being rehomed, but the people are not responding, so I'm going to keep looking and trying for them. But it is kind of more urgent now there's just 2 of them in that big enclosure by themselves, so not ideal. I have been looking for new friends for them, but that was the start of the week. I thought surely nothing else. Bad things usually happen in 3s, but this was more like 5 bad things that happened. So the next one is not really that important in the grand scheme of things. It's not that interesting, but just to kind of set the scene for how frustrated I was with this week. Giving me just one more thing to think about was just way too much. So the day after that, I woke up and I had been bitten to death by mosquitoes, like 5 times on each leg, and I had an allergic reaction, which has never happened. I've never been that bad when it comes to bug bites, but my entire leg, like entire thigh, was swollen and like rock hard and horrible. So I was like, I don't have time to go to the doctors as well as everything else going on. Please just give me a break. So 3 of my mice died, then I got bit by a bunch of mosquitoes, and then my puppy River got sick. So this was Wednesday. I had been at the vet's on Monday, on Tuesday, and then I walked back in on Wednesday, and pretty much all of the vets I'd seen and the like reception staff just saw me and just went and that was the exact same reaction, because basically in the night I was woken up because River had explosive diarrhea, which is literally the only way to describe it. It was all over her, it was all over her bed, it was up the wall. I had never seen this much diarrhea come out of a dog, and the smell was just horrific, so that was not good. And then she was needing to go to the toilet every half an hour, kind of in the middle of the night, so I thought, I'm just not going to go to bed, there is no point, I will stay up with her and let her out. And during the night it got progressively worse. So she was still completely fine in herself. She thought it was hilarious that I was on my hands and knees with the toilet roll in the middle of the night, and she was stealing the toilet roll and like TPing the whole garden. She thought this was like the best day ever because I was awake in the night with her, but kind of as time went on and she was like pooping every half an hour, then it started to just become a bit of blood in the poop, and then just pure blood was like shooting out. So I panicked. I was like, this surely cannot be good. Took her to the vets. The vet said it was like a stomach bug or something. They also said that she was the 11th dog they'd seen. Bear in mind it's just Wednesday at this point, and we live in a pretty small town. The 11th dog they've seen with exactly the same symptoms, so she was fairly sure it's just a stomach bug and nothing more sinister. I was kind of scared that it was something like parvo or something, but she took her temperature, and given that she was still completely fine in herself, she wasn't too worried at that point. So she was on a bunch of medication, probiotics, special foods, just to try to get her better, but honestly I've never seen anything like it. My garden was like a horror film, and she was having to go outside every half an hour to an hour, and I pretty much didn't get any sleep for like 3 nights in a row just because of how often she needed to go outside. There was no point me sleeping because just as I was drifting off, she was then crying to go outside again. So I was like a shell of myself by this point, just trying to get through every single day. And then my stomach started to get a bit weird and acting up, and I was like, that's a bit suspicious, but honestly just add more to the list, whatever at this point. And River wasn't really getting much better. We were kind of halfway through her medication and her like probiotics, and the blood had stopped a little bit, but it still wasn't great. Then I was on our local Facebook group for this area, and there was about 2-3 other posts of people being like, has anyone else been really ill? My baby, myself, my dog and my cat have been throwing up or pooping blood. And I was like, yes, my puppy is really ill and I don't feel great. Think it's connected. So we started talking amongst ourselves, and then it came out that there'd been like a boil notice. Basically, do not drink the tap water, which I know is quite common in like the US. Your tap water you're not really supposed to drink. Here it's super common, everyone drinks the tap water unless you're like super fancy or distrustful, which I kind of am now after this, but basically all of like the local villagers around us had been told do not drink the tap water, but we were being told that it was fine and to carry on. But a lot of us in this area, dogs, cats, people, cross species, were getting sick and like pooping and throwing up blood. But yeah, I'm not going to go too much into it because our water company is still saying that our water was unaffected the entire time, even though the symptoms of a lot of people kind of says differently. I don't know many of the things that can cause like a cross species cats and people or babies and dogs in a household, when mostly the only thing people share is like the tap water, and they were saying it was completely fine. But I poured it out, I tweeted them a picture, and it came out like thick and cloudy, and I remember a couple of days before River got sick I was drinking it and it tasted super funny. So I'm a bit sus about the entire thing, but as soon as I stopped giving River the tap water, stopped drinking the tap water myself, and started to boil it, even though they said we don't have to, she got better, immediately stopped like having blood come out, and then gradually over the past couple of days with probiotics she is now back to normal, thank God, because I missed her. I missed having a puppy to train and play with because she was just sleeping a lot of the time. So that was not fun. I think by the end of the week I was just done with everything. I just couldn't handle a single other thing. But yeah, if you take anything away from this video, please let it be to be organised and plan ahead when it comes to getting your next rats and mice. God forbid, I hope you don't, but God forbid, just in case you end up in a situation like mine where you end up with 2 mice or rats left, or a lone rat or mouse situation, it's much better to be doing things sooner rather than later when you're in that situation. So please plan ahead. I thought I was organised and planned, but then unexpected things like this happen. So just making sure you're starting to think about where your next rats or mice are going to come from before things start to happen. Even me that plans these kind of things, you can't plan for the unexpected, so just make sure you are thinking about these things. It's definitely given me a bit of a reality check when it comes to the rats. I was like, oh, ideally I'll get more in like October, November time. My 2 older boys are going to be 2 around then, and who knows what could happen. So that's kind of changed my way of thinking about that when it comes to the rats. But yes, please be organised. Just avoid things like this. Obviously you can't always avoid it in like my situation, but just make sure you're thinking of these things just in case. It is time to go on a little mental health dog walk, and I'm not even going to pretend that I'm 100% at the moment, but going on these walks every single day and having to go on a walk does make such a difference. And I'm taking her to my favourite place. I don't think she was even able to walk the last time I did a monthly vlog. I think she was just vaccinated, so it's been really nice. And plus today it's raining, so only the serious dog walkers are going to be out and we won't get bothered, hopefully. So I love taking her to this place. It was my favourite place to walk before I even had a dog, and I always wanted to take my dog here, so it's such a full circle moment of actually having her to take her here, and she loves it too. So let's go for a walk. So this, I think, might be River's first thing that she's ever been sent, and I've actually had this sent a while ago, but my PO box was holding it hostage, so I've had this waiting for me for over a month now, and I've only just got around to filming it. She can very clearly smell what this is, and she's come over to investigate. So this is from a business called Nova's Naturals, and they sell natural dog treats, And they very kindly offered to send River a puppy package, I think. I'm not entirely sure what's in this, but it's all suitable for puppies, so it's all like natural dog treats. If you don't want to see like pig's ears and things like that, maybe skip to this timestamp instead. But I do really want to show you what's in here, and I think River is excited too. Okay, so it says inside the box is chicken necks, chicken feet, puff chicken feet, cow's ears, lamb lung stick, beef liver pieces, beef lung stick, rabbit ears with fur, trachea pieces, sprats, and soft duck sticks. And then you can find them on Etsy, Facebook, or Instagram. And again, it's Nova's Naturals. So again, warning, don't watch this if you're funny about like natural dog treats and like animal body parts. I don't eat animals, but my dog does because that is part of her diet. So she's eating the business card. That's not ideal, River. Go that way. What's this? Oh, wow, look at all this for you. What do you want to take? The biggest piece. Yep, figures. Thank you so much for sending all of this. This will keep her busy for a good long while and give me some much needed peace and quiet. So thank you so much. Please go and follow them on their Facebook and their Instagram. Just in case you guys watching also have a dog and you want to get them some natural treats, I will leave all of their details in the description.